Meeple Towers. This is an abstract game by WizKids in which we're gonna build towers and put meeples on them. It looks like a dexterity game, but that's not really what it's supposed to be in my opinion, although you still gotta be careful not to bump those towers. The game is played on a board which is made of two sections that you combine together. You have several, as you can see, double-sided, so a lot of variety there. Each player also receives a set of meeples of a color, a set of wooden supports of the same color, and a deck of cards. Again, you guessed it, of the same color. They're then tiles will be used to build the towers when you place them on those supports. Tiles are of three kinds. Two types are called the large ones, then we have the medium, and then the small ones. We will see soon why that is important. Gameplay is super simple. Basically, players will have a hand of cards, and during the turn they can play a card and choose one of the two effects indicated there and resolve it. Or during your turn, instead of doing so, you can choose to recover the cards that you played earlier, which makes a little bit of an anticlimactic situation, of course. If your entire turn is simply to recover your cards. The idea, again, is, however, for most turns you will play a card and do what the card says, what the symbol that you choose. For example, I decide to play this card and I choose this one, then that symbol means I can place two meeples, and the symbol also tells me where I can place them. That means in residential areas, so that would be those areas there with the symbol of the house or the same color. And suppose I decide to place one there and one there. Now, because this symbol is not indicated on any card, you can never place meeples there. Also, the golden rule is that you can place stuff only on top of things, never under things. So you'll be able, basically the playable space is only the one that you can see from above. If a space is under something, then you cannot place anything there. Now, or suppose that I play the card for this other symbol, then I will place one of my meeples in an area of that kind, for example. But suppose I play a card with one or more supports. Here, for example, I place a meeple in that kind of area, and then I place a support. These supports can be played in any space as long as you're not killing those poor meeples or poor meeples. And so, for example, I could place one here, and then later I can place one there. You cannot place two supports, one on top of the other, in the same turn. So if I receive two supports, they cannot be like that. They could be like that, and then in a later turn, for example, I could put a support on top of my own. You can also place supports on top of other people's supports, as long as the whole support thing is never more than two. That's the maximum number of supports that you can stack. Another action that you can take is to place a tile. And when you take that action, the card will tell you if the tile belongs to the small group, the medium, or the large. This would be the large. To place a tile, to resolve that action, you take a tile from those stacks there of the type that you have played. So, for example, this would be legal, and you place it on the board on supports. You cannot lay down the previous boards or the previous level. It cannot hang out. It has to touch pretty much supports only, or rely only on supports. It has to have supports under the spaces indicated there. So, for example, like so, that would be a legal placement. When I place a new tile on the board, several things happen. First, if I covered a meeple, like it happened there, the meeple is returned to the player, and as a bonus, the player receives a token of the type corresponding to the space that used to have a meeple in it. So that would be one of these tokens. These tokens simply will give you victory points at the end of the game. You don't have to reveal that to the other player. Also, scoring. The player that placed the tile immediately scores the number of points indicated there. For example, 10 points to whoever placed the tile there. The smaller number that you see there, 3 points in this case, each player scores that number for each support that they have in the under the tile that was just placed. In this case, for example, red scores 9 points, yellow scores 6, and black scores 3. And then we just continue like this. Suppose that later somebody wants to build that way, and so they can do so. They can do so, and then maybe it will be like this, and like so. And then we place this one like that. Meanwhile, meeples will keep climbing on the tower, being removed when something gets over their head, because that freaks them out. You can have multiple towers, but it's also possible the players will really try to work on a main tower. Because again, meeples are removed. Oh, no one can build there right now, because there's no space. Otherwise, you could always have just a little thing like that. So you're gonna have probably a main tower looking a little weird, and the meeples want to be on top. Again, being removed gives you those tokens, but being on top also is important. Why? It's important during the final scoring. The game ends when a player has placed all of the supports that they had in their supply at the beginning of the game, or when a family of tiles has been placed, so all of the big ones, all of the medium ones, or all of the small ones. So again, not just a type, but a family composed of 2 types. Or also when 2 types of bonus tokens have been assigned. Any of those 3 piles, 2 of them are depleted, the game is over. At the point you score extra points for your meeples that are still on the board. Meeples at level 1 are worth 1 point. At level 1 we call them 0. The following level is 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, and so on and so forth. You collect all of those points, add them together with points that you have collected during the game by picking up those tokens and contributing or placing tiles, and at the point the player with the highest score wins the game. Meeple Towers truly surprised me. From reading the rulebook, it looked pretty dry, and I'll just say boring. It looked like incredibly boring and obvious. I played it with my daughters only. So first we only played it with 3 players, because after we played it once, they loved it, and so they both always wanted to play. So I never had a chance of playing it alone. And they really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too. Not just for that, as a parent, I enjoy seeing my kids play. I actually enjoy playing it. Also enjoy the fact that it is a family game. In times of pandemic where I don't have game night, this is a game that I can play with my kids, and we all have a great time. One of the key elements that my kids fail to see at the beginning, but it really spices things up, is how the role of the meeple changes throughout the game. Early on in mid-game, you want those meeples to be covered by tiles so that you can bring home those tokens, and also that allows you to manipulate the length of the game. But simply having those points is good. That's just the way it is. As the game progresses, you want your meeples to be as high as possible, and my kids at the beginning really underestimated how many points you can score if you have 3 meeples at level 5. I know mathematically they know that's like 17. I mean, everybody knows. I'm not a great mathematician, but it's obvious. But that you could really score a lot. So as the game progresses, you try to switch your meeple strategy from collecting those tokens to collecting even more points. And for a game that looks so abstract and cute, it's all about these nice geometry, solid colors, so cute meeples. It can be actually pretty cutthroat because, well, I'm going to place my meeple there so you cannot build. Oh, you put that tile there and got that support there. I'm going to put support right there. So I'm gonna hijack a little bit your project. I'm gonna steal some of your thunder. I'm gonna let you do all of the work, and you're gonna score well, but I'm also gonna score some. So there are just many ways. Or I see that you build the supports to go in a way, and I'm gonna actually use one of those supports to play a tile there. Even better, you place the supports and I place the tile, and again, it's a cooperative effort, and I'm still gonna get more points than if you'd done it all by yourself. In this sense, timing is very important because I want to perform certain actions when I'm sure that you play certain cards. So for example, I place there all the supports for a great large tile, and you still have that card in your hand. You're gonna play it and you're gonna score some points. I get the ones from the support, but I lose the ones from the tile. So before I really complete a situation where somebody, not necessarily me, could place a large tile there, I want to make sure that the other players have played that card and I still have it. And of course, there are different things. One player has played it and the other player hasn't. Darn it, now what do I do? There are interesting decisions that emerge from the switching strategy revolving around the meeples, and simply from the bicycle nature of the cards, as your range of opportunity changes throughout the game, so does that of the opponents, and you have to keep an eye on them also and get a sense of what they can do at any given time, so that you don't give them an opening and they don't pick up a lot of points that you wanted instead. One negative thing about this game is that the way it is so beautifully designed as a cold, calculating, backstabbing, planning game, really doesn't look like it should have, or it wants to have, a dexterity element. And I play dexterity games with my kids. Rhino Hero is one of my favorites. But this one has a dexterity element in that there have been games that somebody simply bumped a tower by mistake because I want to say, wait a second, where is that token? Or I was removing a meeple, or let me move the board because I want to remove the meeple, and part of the tower falls down. And then rebuilding it exactly as it was is annoying, and we just give up and we start over. So this is Element. It's a really nice design. The production makes it a little wobblier and more precarious than I think is desirable. But overall, this is still a fun game. A good family game since ages 12 and up. Very conservative estimate. I play with my 8-year-old, and she would have been able to play a couple of years ago also. No reading involved, for example, so it can be played with very young players, if not, again, for the fact that very young players are gonna make a mess, because that's how it works. Meeple Towers, a fun, simple family game. Very light. Maybe some advanced gamers, some hardcore gamers would not like it precisely because of that, but it could be a light filler for game night with your adult friends that you shouldn't have over these days of pandemic. But when game night resumes, this could be a nice, interesting game. I think of it mainly as a family game, but if you play with your adult games, game night as a filler, I think there's still enough here to hold the interest of seasoned and habitual gamers. Meeple Towers, very light, a bit precarious, but fun.